Hello and welcome to the Creabea Knitting podcast. Hello, welcome. My name is Rebecca. I'm a knitter and knitwear designer based in Edinburgh, and this is a vlog or a podcast all about knitting, what I'm currently knitting on, what I've been knitting on, and what I'd like to cast on in the not too distant future. I'm feeling a bit out of touch. I feel like it's only really been 2.5 weeks since I last filmed, but it feels like it's been a month. So I have things to talk about. I have so much to talk about. I have like a mountain of finished objects, a mountain of works in progress. I'm just thinking about one that I left downstairs I'm gonna have to go grab. So I'm just gonna like pretty much just jump in. And yeah, I've got acquisitions. Let's see, I'd like to keep this under the hour. I don't really have time today for more than that, so hopefully I can get this done in the time frame. And let's see. So first and foremost, what am I wearing? I am wearing a Kintra sweater. Kintra is a pattern which is coming out in February. It's coming out in like 2 weeks time, February 14th. And this pattern is the 4-ply version, and it was sample knit for me. And I feel like you're not getting the full effect of it, so I'm gonna like come closer to the camera because the yoke is all knit in Mohair. So I don't know if you can see it a little bit better there, but it's all Mohair. There's like a little green here. It's all very like autumnal colours. The yarn is, it's not a set, but there are mini skeins from Rainbow Heirloom, which is a Scottish dyer. I picked them up at Glasgow School of Yarn, a festival in November, I think. And at that point I'd knit my first Kintra, and I had plans of using this one for the second one, or like for another version. But it turned out incredible. Like I'm so pleased with this. The main colour is Kinross 4-ply in the colour Tablet, which is kind of like a toppy brown. It's definitely coming out quite pale here. It's definitely more on like the warm brown side. And I am just completely obsessed with everything that this sweater is. I love it so much. I love it. I've got a few Kintras to show you today, so I'm going to jump into all of those because they're all finished objects. So this one was sample knit for me, and I have a second sample knit version, which is the short sleeve version. So this version is short sleeved, and this is my, if you've been around for a while, you'll know that I had a Pride and Prejudice advent calendar last year, and this is knit up in the Pride and Prejudice advent, bar one colour. So we left off one colour, which was the pale pink. And that's what this version looks like, and I've got short sleeves. Now, I love the short sleeves, but I think that this length is a little awkward for me. The sample knitter length is exactly as I asked for, so it's exactly what I asked for. But I tried it on, and they stop like a bit above my elbow, and I don't think it's quite the right fit for me. So I think I'm going to take the sleeves back a little bit, maybe like back to just here, and just do a few rounds, and then the ribbing. It'll be slightly more wearable. I keep putting it on, and then be like, oh, I'm not sure about that sleeve. So I think that's a sign that I need to edit the sleeve a little bit. But this is then 11 colours plus the main colour. I just think it looks so cool. And again, I use Kinross 4-ply for the body, and this colour is Porridge. So I guess you can kind of tell this is like a true beige, and this is like the brownie beige. You can see the difference there between Tablet and Porridge. I love Kinross 4-ply. If you've been here for a while, you'll know that. Kinross 4-ply is a lamb's wool made in Scotland, and it is incredibly soft, and it softens up so nicely. So those are my two 4-ply samples. I feel like I'm jumping into this without any context. It is the Kintra is a top-down round yoke sweater with some raglan shaping. I think you can actually see it on this version quite clearly, although it really does disappear into my armpit. You can see the raglan. So neat. I can tell I didn't knit the sample because it's incredibly neat, and I'm not a very neat knitter. The Colourwork yoke is 1x1 Colourwork, and it will take between, you can use as few as 3 contrast colours and as many as 24 contrast colours. So you could use it for an advent. So that was kind of my design in this. My very first sample, I'll put a picture of it here, I think uses 6 colours. This one uses, I have to check, I think 6 colours as well, maybe more. This obviously uses 11 colours. And the plan is that I'm waiting for tester feedback, but every size for every colour will have the amount, like the yardage per colour, so you can really be really scrappy with it. So these are my two 4-ply samples. I then have 3 DK weight samples. So I knew I wanted to make an advent version, but I was getting so impatient in the test knit whilst because the test must have started in October, end of October, start of November, and I didn't want to start my Advent one until December. So in the meantime I cast on this version. This is a DK weight sample, and this, I feel like, if I'm honest, I'm not 100%. I kind of wish I'd made a dark grey version instead of a navy. I got so caught up in these colours, and I like them up close, but I think far away it's not as impactful as I'd like it to be. These are the 4 colours. So there's like a baby blue in there, which I just feel like gets lost from a distance. But there's baby blue, there's it's called muscat, there's like a tan colour, and then this white and the main colour blue. This is all done in pure Gynt by Santa's Garn. I really like that yarn, so I went onto Ravelry and had a look at some projects that use multiple colours, and there were quite a few Celeste sweaters by Petite Knit that used these 4 colours as a combination, and I thought, well, that looks amazing, I'm going to use those 4 colours. And I like it, but it's not really what I was envisioning. I think I'd like it to be, it's not really the colour palette I would have loved. That being said, I'm still going to wear this because I do, like, I think it's still lovely. It just means I have to make another one because now I want a dark grey one as well. It's quite heavy, as I said, it's the DK weight one. The main colour is this like navy blue. I don't have the best light today, so everything's showing up a little bit darker. And so that one uses, let's see, the muscat, the brown, the muscat, the tan, the white and the blue. So that's 4 contrast colours. I finished this as last time. This was a work in progress last time. And then my pièce de résistance is my Advent version. So as I said, I wanted to make an Advent version because as much as you could make this with as few colours as you like, well, as few as 3 contrast colours, you can use up to 24. And so whenever I make samples, I want to show the variety that a pattern offers. And so I knew I had to make one with 24 colours. So I had an Advent from Elliot in May. They're a UK based dyer. It was a non-superwash Advent, and it was all, there were tonals, so every yarn was solid, there was no variegation. I had not heard of this dyer before, but it was so strange. I asked on YouTube, did anyone have any recommendations? And then like that evening or the next day, somebody on Instagram reshared a post from Elliot in May from their Advent from last year, and I thought that's exactly what I'm looking for. I will say this is more of a pastel Advent than their last year one was, but it reminds me of like a spring garden or like a sunrise. I think it is glorious. So this is what it looks like with 24 colours in the yoke. I'll hold it close so you can see. Oh, look at that fade. So I got one colour the wrong way around. If anyone was watching Vlogmas, I lost a skein of yarn and it was downstairs on my bookshelf, but I forgot it was there. And I knit past it. So one of the greys was meant to be up here and I ended up adding it to another grey here. So this is a slightly longer like grey panel and it was shouldn't be up here. But I love this. I think it's so cool. I think it's unlike anything else I have in my wardrobe. And yeah, 24 colours in there. So I used yarn from Stash as my main colour. I actually had asked the dyer before I started for any recommendations for a main colour, and then they said, do you want me just to send you the colour palette? And I said, yeah, go for it. And it was long enough before Advent that I thought I'll have an idea of the colours, but I won't know day by day what I'm going to open, and that's exactly what happened. So I was pretty sure I was going to use this green, and then I had this yarn in Stash. This is Laxtons Wooltrace. So Laxtons is a mill in the UK and they do a lot of milling. I had this problem last time. I couldn't remember what the word was. They spin yarn for a lot of hand dyers. And so they have a base which is a BFL Masham base called Super Soft, which I'm getting to later because I've got some of that to show as well. And they now sell their yarn for consumers. So like you can buy their yarns as well as they sell to dyers. Now I don't think their BFL Masham base is the same. Like it doesn't tell you the percentage, and I think that most hand dyers I've seen do like a 75-25, and you can see that on the label. It's not labelled, it just says BFL Masham. And my experience is that when I've bought hand dyed, like I've tried Sonder Yarn DK and their BFL Masham base, which is beautiful. I used it for my Alder sweaters. It is more of like an open ply, whereas the one from Laxtons directly is very round and very bouncy. But it's really interesting to try if you want to try. I feel like people who have knit with BFL Masham really like BFL Masham, and I'm definitely one of those people. And yeah, they send directly to people and it's pretty inexpensive. They have a second yarn called Wooltrace, which is what this is. and it doesn't say exactly what it is. There's not a breed on there, but it comes in a few colours and it's solids and it has washed lovely. I didn't dislike knitting with it, but like I didn't love knitting with it. It has washed up really soft. It's a little rustic, but no more so. I would compare it to probably to Pure Gynt. If you tried that before, they're definitely like equivalent on the rustic level. It is slightly thinner than Pure Gynt. I think it's like a 225 meters per 100 grams, whereas Pure Gynt is 90 meters per 50 grams. Something that's interesting with this one is that and it does make sense, the yoke is quite distinctly thicker. Now, my gauge is the same and I don't think you can tell, like it doesn't look like it flares out or like cinches in, it's blocked out lovely. But the yoke is definitely thicker. Obviously there are 2 strands of yarn in there, so that makes sense. But it's quite distinctly, like I can feel a difference between the yoke and the main body, which is quite cool. I feel it with this as well, but that's because like this is mohair, so it's a whole different fibre. This is all wool, it's just that the top is yeah, squishier. So there we go. I just bought this one, like it just dried this morning. It's still maybe a tiny bit damp, but mostly dry. And the Kintra pattern is coming out on February 14th, a little Valentine's gift from me to everyone else. It will come with however many sizes it comes with, 10 sizes, 11 sizes, something like that. It's a size inclusive pattern, and the pattern will include a DK weight and a 4-ply option. All sizes will be able to use like a standard 20-gram mini skein set for the DK or the 4-ply. So for this one it was a 4-ply advent, but I held the yarn double, and all sizes can do that, which was a real key thing for me. I really wanted to make sure that you could do that across all sizes. I think the largest, I'm kind of calling them stripes, they're not really stripes, but they're like these colour segments. The largest one obviously is the very bottom colour because it covers the most number of stitches. The largest size needs 60 meters in the DK weight to do that, and usually an advent has 80 meters per skein. So that's really cool. I just have so much love for this project. There were so many things I really like about it. I really enjoyed that I was feeling really into the idea of it, and then took it on holiday and had I played with the idea. It was a very it was a really enjoyable creative process. Like there was no pressure to design it. It was just a case of I've got this idea, let's just do it. And I think I'm trying to lean more into that in general, but it was really a case of like just chuck all these yarns in a bag and we're going on holiday and let's see what happens, which was very fun. I so love my original sample. I completely fell in love with my sample, so that also helps. I love that it can be so flexible. I've had such good feedback from the testers that are just like, oh, I want to make 5 more of these, I love this. And I'm really pleased with the fit of it. It fits because of this raglan, these underarm raglan shaping. You can see it really clearly there actually where the raglan starts. I think because of that you end up with a pattern that is a round yoke sweater that fits people, which I feel like a lot of people, some people can wear round yoke and have no issue, but generally I think round yoke sweaters don't always fit people particularly well because you end up with too much fabric on the arms, and this really avoids that by adding the raglan shaping. So yeah, I'm really proud of this one and the whole process. I'm looking forward to it. We're doing pictures in just over a week and I'm already super excited. So that is my little stash of Kintras. 1, 2, 3, oh, and my original sample, plus the one I'm wearing. So you can tell I like a pattern when I make this many, and I'm kind of sad that they're all done. Like I'm sad, I just finished this one maybe yesterday. Did it get blocked? Yesterday morning I blocked it, I think. I feel a bit sad that they're all finished. I don't have any more samples in it. Knowing me, I will end up missing another sample anyway. Okay, I have 2 more finished objects. Is that right? Yeah, I do. So one of these is actually, it is a finished object. However, I finished it before the last episode and I completely forgot it even existed. And then I finished filming and thought, oh, I completely forgot about that one sweater. So I'm showing it to you now. So I knit a sweater over Christmas. This is it here. I will put in a picture of me wearing said sweater. And what even is this? It is my Rhue sweater pattern. Again, I'll put a picture of what that is, which is a pattern that I released in February last year. And that is a contiguous construction pattern with Colourwork over this section. So it doesn't start quite as high as this. It starts like here. and it goes all the way round, and the top half of the pattern up here is like a different colour to the bottom half of the pattern. And it has this, what at the time was a new to me construction, and it's still something I've not done a whole lot of, contiguous construction, which is where you, contiguous is really cool. If you've not knit a contiguous pattern before, I would 100% recommend it. It's such an interesting way of knitting. It is a bit like a saddle shoulder in that you can kind of, I don't know if you can show this in a way that's effective. That is the shoulder, that sort of strip here is the shoulder down from the neck, so it creates these almost saddles, but you very quickly join in the round and work the rest of the pattern almost like a raglan, but it has the fit of like a set-in sleeve because you knit all the way out to here and then you start doing your sleeve shaping down here. So you kind of have the fit of a set-in sleeve, which generally fits quite well for most people. That is like a bit more aligned with like what a lot of ready-to-wear sweaters are. But you have the knitting process of a raglan because you join in the round pretty quickly, and that almost the entire sweater is knit in the round. So it is my Rhue sweater, however I left off the Colourwork, and I think I sized down because I think my gauge was like 1 stitch chunkier. I actually think I need to redo the neckline. You can kind of see a little bit that the neckline is kind of here, like folding down a little bit. Can you see that? So I think I either need to, it does look like quite broad ribbing, so either I need to redo the ribbing in a smaller needle or just put some elastic. I'll probably do the elastic thing first and see if it solves the issue, and if not I will redo the ribbing. It is knit in Peruvian Highland wool from Filcolana in like a berry red colour, I can't remember the colour name, and a Rauma alpaca silk. So it's super warm and chunky, which is exactly what I wanted, and it is really plain and it's just a nice colour. So I really wanted to knit this for Christmas and wear it on Christmas Day. It's exactly what I did and I like it, and it is another plain basic sweater to add to my sweater collection. And I do feel like I find that there are some days where it's really cold and I don't have a sweater to wear, and now I'm reaching for that one, which is good. I have a lot of like DK weight sweaters, but that one is so dense that I feel like it keeps off the wind chill, and so it has had a lot of wear on dog walks so far this year. It has already started pilling a little bit. You can see it down here, which obviously this sweater has been finished for bang on a month and has probably been worn 7 or 8 times. So that's not great if I'm honest. And I wouldn't rush to use this yarn combination again. Like, I have no issues with it, but I wouldn't, like, I'm not crazy about it. I'm not obsessive about this, but I would 100% recommend the construction. I think it's really fun, and I think if you've not knit contiguous before, I think it's a really cool way of knitting things. I would recommend it. I know that Petite Knit has a lot of contiguous construction patterns. The Poppy Tee, I think, might be contiguous. And the Maggie Cardigan, 2 patterns that I love that are both contiguous. And that's all my works in progress. All my finished objects. That's not true. I have one more finished object, which I like whipped up in 3 days. So a couple of things came together. Firstly, I had an outfit in my head, exactly, and I wanted to wear this outfit, and part of it involved wearing a grey vest that I didn't own. So like that was one component. The second component was I keep going to knit night and it's too hot to wear sweaters, and I wanted to wear something I could wear to knit night, which is so silly. But I was like, oh, I can never wear a sweater because the pub is always roasting. And I felt like casting on a new thing. I've just been, you will see when we get to the works in progress, I'm doing a bit of casting on with Wild Abandon. I am very ahead of schedule in terms of planning and designing. Like, I'm working on things right now for autumn of next year, so it's really nice. There's not too much time pressure and I'm not rushing to finish things, and I'm able to do like big long 14-week tests, and that's been really nice. It also means I've had a bit of freedom to cast on some fun things. So I knit a Tolsta vest, and this is what it looks like. It is super plain grey Tolsta vest. Like, it is nothing crazy exciting, and that's, oh, it's actually the wrong way around. It's that way around. It is not incredibly exciting, but I really like this. There are a couple of things I love. The first thing is that I released this pattern less than a year ago, and it is designed to be, it was designed as a summer weight garment. So I knit my samples in cotton and linen, and this sample is knit in alpaca, wool and mohair, and I got gauge and it is knit exactly to pattern, but of course, like, it's a very different piece than the other ones, and I think that's really cool. I think we're all aware that I like that patterns offer lots of options. And of course this is not an option in the pattern as such, but it is nice. I made one version with like a tie at the front, and that was also with a DK and a mohair, but it's really nice to, I don't know, be like, okay, I really want a plain basic vest. Oh, I've got a pattern for that, and I'm just gonna get gauged with different fibres. So yeah, I really liked it. And in true Tolsta fashion, it's a 17 stitch gauge. So I think this took me like, I think from casting on to casting off, it was like 5 days. Which was really lovely. Of course I knit all day some days, and I jokingly was talking about how this is like my stormy vest because I cast it on whilst reading Onyx Storm, the recent Fourth Wing book, and I cast it off on the day that we had to stay at home because there was a red weather warning for Storm Eowyn, which had like record-breaking wind through Scotland and Ireland. And so I started it with Onyx Storm, finished it with Storm Eowyn, and it's like this like grey, like stormy grey colour. This is like my stormy vest. What I really like about this is the yarn combination, and I like the yarn combination so much that I almost immediately bought a special quantity of this yarn. So it is a new to me yarn. I think I brought a skein over. I did. I bought this from knit.co.uk, K-N-I-T-T. I order an obscene amount of yarn from there. It's like I need to wash my hair, and it's gone into like peak fuzzy mode, and I just can't stop playing with it because I keep seeing my head on camera, and it's just huge, and I need to stop touching it so much. I got it from knit.co.uk. I order a lot of yarn from there. It's hands down the place I order the most yarn from. It's not sponsored. I pay full price for my yarns. If they ever offered an affiliate program, I would jump at the chance because I think I've tried just about every yarn they have to offer now. And I will say, I had a specific colour in mind. I really wanted like a real like charcoal, anthracite, really dark grey. And I couldn't really find what I wanted in where I would normally go that I knew would get gauged. So I knew that like a Peruvian Highland wool would be too chunky, and the same with the pure Gynt, and I wanted it to have mohair. So like I was trying to find a yarn that was around about the right weight, and so I came across Pura Lana by Gepard. Now I've tried the other Wool So Soft, I want to call it, or Woolly, Gepard Woolia. Is that what it's called? Woolia, which I think is like their standard wool base. I'm not crazy about it, but I will say I've not like done a huge project. I've just done some swatching in it, and every time I find the colour's a little bit flat. But this was like, as you can see, it's got a bit of a speckle, if you can really see that, but it's not a solid colour. And it is 50% wool, 50% alpaca, and as we know, I really like alpaca, but I don't like plain alpaca. I like alpaca held with something because I like it to keep its shape. So I used Isager mohair, again, purely because of the colour choices. This is the best colour match that they had in stock. I'm not super tied to a mohair. I like Filcolana Tilia because I find it's a good price. It knits up nicely, and there's a whole host of colours. But I feel like I could pick and choose between like Filcolana Tilia, I think for all of mohair, Isager, like I'm happy with all of those. It just depends the colour. So like this was great, but this was not the this shining star. It was this. So lovely. It's got such a nice drape to it, but it's so soft, but it's got, I don't know how to describe this. Like these are the words that I feel like you just know, like you just experience as a knitter and you're like, yes, I know what you're talking about. So I hope you know what I mean. But yeah, it's just got a really nice heft, but drape. It's really nice to wear. It's so soft. So yeah, if you're looking for a approximately 17 stitches per 10 centimetre gauge, very specific, I would recommend the Gepard Puralina with this, Puralana, sorry. It is, I'm going to work out the meterage. 115 metres per 50 grams, so like 230 metres per 100 grams, so like on a slightly, pretty much bang on a DK to be honest. I see that their recommended is 20 to 21 stitches, so that is a really common DK weight gauge, and I really like this. It wasn't crazy cheap. I think it was maybe £7 a ball per 50 grams, so like it does add up. And I cannot talk about how well it wears because I've only worn this once, but so far I'm really trying to discover more yarns, particularly more commercially available yarns that are around, like, there are some very like good inexpensive yarns, and I love those yarns. I like Drops, I like Cascade, I think they are really good yarns to use. I guess what I'm trying to lean into is that like middle bracket of like, it's not either hand dyed and very expensive, and it's not like a luxury fibre like cashmere, but it is readily available, well priced, good value for money yarn. And I feel like my at the end of the year with Rauma, really enjoyed both Feeble and Vams from Rauma, and so far this year I'm starting with Gepard, and I like this a lot. So yeah, that was my final finished object. It is 26 minutes in. 6 finished objects, and I'm surrounded by whips. I'm actually going to start by talking about a failed whip, because I feel like it's different when you're a designer, because I guess your failed whips, I don't really know. I feel like a lot of the time, by the time I get to casting on something, I'm concrete enough in the idea that I'm happy to execute it. But I feel like people feel like whips are failures all the time, and I feel like it's worth pointing out when that is the case, and this is one of the examples. So there's a lot going on here. This is my failed whip. It's been crumbled up in a bag in the naughty corner for a while, hence why it looks so shabby. This was a raglan Colourwork sweater. So this is the Colourwork. It's this fun, like almost tartan-esque boxes, and I actually kind of like those. They're fun. I designed a sort of plaid checkerboard pattern for Lana last year, 2 years ago. I think it's fun. I like the way that the squares interact with the raglan, but I just don't think it looks very neat. Like, I just don't think they look like very straight squares. I think it looks really scruffy and a bit all over the place, and it's not as graphic as I hoped it would be. The second thing was then that, you have it in here? No. Don't know where that is. I cut the whole collar off, as you can tell. I knit a big high neck collar, so it came like right up to here. And the trouble that I had with that was the collar was too tight and it was pulling the whole yoke in. And so I was getting this big like this bubble of fabric on the back and on the front. Now I'm really paranoid about getting it in this sweater. The neck is a tiny bit tight on me on this one, and it's funny because on the other sample that's not got a double folded neckline, the neck's a bit wide on me, so there's obviously like the folded versus not folded. But yeah, it just didn't work out. I was using two yarns I love, Fabric Company Lower. I still got the yarn. I will use it again for something else in Colourwork, but it just didn't land. So yeah, that was going to be a sweater. Even I thought what might happen is that I might get back to it and look at it and be really into it again one day, but I just don't like it. Which is fine, I've got more ideas. But yeah, one failed Colourwork attempt. It's currently taking up space in a bag. I probably should move it out of a bag and probably unwind it and do something else with it, but I've not looked at it for a couple of weeks, and that was since I cut the neckband off, and I really thought like I'm just going to leave it somewhere and not look at it for a couple of weeks, and when I open it again I might be into it. I'm not. I have no feelings about it. I don't feel like I wasted my time, I just feel like I'm not into it. So that was one failed whip. That's okay, because I have been casting on with wild abandon otherwise. I mentioned last time that I'm going to stop trying to share things too far in advance on Instagram, but I really just like talking about what I'm working on here on YouTube, so I'm going to continue to do it. The downside of that is that I will be showing things that will not be coming out for months and months on end, because these are autumn 2025 ideas. But I feel like I just like chatting on YouTube. I just like talking about my creative process and my ideas and my thoughts on yarn, and that's something I want to keep doing. And I also want to be this organised and planning ahead, because I again said this last time, but being this organised means that I can do like 14-week test knits. It means that which more people can take part in, and hopefully I'll get like a higher volume of applicants for like bigger sizes. It means I can be super organised in terms of like having the pattern ready weeks before the test knit starts, so that the test knit should start much more smoothly and not run into any issues. It means that it gives me some more flexibility where I'm not feeling like, oh, if I don't get a pattern out this month, can I pay my mortgage? Okay, that's a dramatization. I am financially responsible and I plan well in advance, but You know, there's not a pressure to be like, oh, I've got bills to pay, so I need to get a pattern out this month, and then like put together something really crappy and scruffy that I'm not into. So it means that right now, like for example, that sweater, I tried it on, I don't like it. Fine, like I can move on. And that's fine, like it has no impact on the business, whether or not I like a design or not, and I get a lot more time to play before committing to things. All that to say, I'm showing you 3 things, 3 works in progress, and take them with a pinch of salt because they're not coming out for ages. Okay, the first one I've kind of showed before, so I'll show this one. I've actually got it sitting right here because I was counting my cable numbers. I finished this cardigan at the end of last year, this like honeycomb cardigan, real classic cable cardigan. I love this thing. Really fun like raglan detailing. Loads of cables. It's my next mega pattern, so I will have I'm avoiding v-neck this time because I feel like the v-neck is what gets me in trouble. The v-neck always complicates a pattern more than like the cardigan of the staffing. The pattern is like an 80-page file. Now there are a couple of reasons. One is that it's all charted, so there are like 30 pages of charts at the end and you just need the one of your size. But also every size has different v-neck shaping, and instead of just being like, I don't know, the pattern would be a third of the size if it was only round neck. So I've decided for my next mega pattern there will be no v-neck option because I don't want it. But there will be, oh, what is this? Is it hot glue? Oh, what is that? It looks like there's hot glue or puppy saliva on my jumper. Let's be honest, it's probably puppy saliva, given the life that I lead. It looks like a snail, but it's not a snail. I'm panicking. No, it's fine. I cast on the sweater version. The main reason for that was I wanted to get ahead of the curve. I want to get this, I think this will go to testing in like May, and obviously it's only January, but cables take a while to knit, and I need to do, so there will be a sweater, a cardigan and a vest, and I felt like casting on the sweater. So I've not got much progress, but we have started. I knit the first ball of yarn. I'm using pure Gynt. This one is knit up in with Mohair, and I wanted to make sure that there's a version that didn't use Mohair because, again, Mohair, first, people sometimes don't like it. Secondly, it adds a lot more to cost to the sweater. So I'm using a Marzipan pure Gynt. I had a panic where I thought, oh no, should I have knit this in a tweed? And I'm still not sold on the fact that I should not. Like maybe I should knit it in a tweed, but it's okay. We're gonna stick with what we have for now. And this is what we have so far. So I've joined in the round. I added the collar really early just because I think it helps with fit. And yeah, not much to say about this. Lots and lots of knitting to do, but I've done almost all the hard part, and from here on out, like I have all my numbers, and it's going to be just a case of really easy going. That is something that I do love about a raglan, is just, it's so straightforward. Like with this, it's in the way that I love to do it. I did it with the Dorney and the Alder. You start working flat and you work this like crescent moon of knitting. The Cargill is the same. So it's not that there's short rows, but it serves the same function as short rows, and then it lifts the back of the neck higher. You can see it quite distinctly. The back of the neck is, if I hold the front and the back together, the back neck is quite a lot higher than the front. And that's because of this, like, this method. And so you have a few, like, not quite complicated rows, but you have, like, the first, like, 12, 14, 10 rows, depending on the gauge. You're increasing at the start and the end of the row, and you're doing raglan increases in the middle. And so there's a lot going on there, and then you join the round, and then you have to like move your stitches around. So there's like 10 rows of like a little bit of chaos where you're just sitting and focusing. And then after that you're joining the round, and it's like normal, easy peasy. Cables every 4th row, raglans every 2nd row. Really lovely. So I'm away this weekend. I'll talk about that more when we get to the personal stuff. And I'm hoping to take this with me as like my slightly more involved project. So yeah, really enjoying that one. So my purl gauge is quite a lot looser than my knit gauge, and I knit the entire cardigan obviously flat. So I probably should give this a little steam block before I go knitting an entire cardigan to make sure. I've gone up half a needle size, and it is looking, honestly, it's looking pretty the same. Yeah, it looks, I'm not super worried about it, but I should just check and make sure that my gauge is going to be pretty similar. Otherwise, I'll have a problem. So yeah, easy peasy. Don't know what that's going to be called yet. Not quite worked that one out, but I just love this original one, and it's going to be, I think it's going to come out in October. So yeah, ages away. Literally 9 months away. Like, babies that are not yet oh, that's not quite right. Well, babies that are not yet conceived could be born in the time it's going to take the sweater to come out. It's the entire gestation period of a human. But yeah, I'm just working away on it. I would like to have, because they're all a little bit different, my plan is that I have the sweater, the cardigan and the vest fully done before the test net starts. And then they're all, even the vest, I'll just have a 14-week test for the vest, that's absolutely fine. The vest is going to be red. I'm also toying with the fact that I'd quite like a button-up vest. But I don't know if that's very dated. But there might be two vests. There might be like a regular vest and a button-up vest. Because I just can't get it, like how cute would it be? Like I love vests with like more of these, I love these buttons so much. Like a red vest with duffel buttons over a white t-shirt. And like black jeans and like black, like my black docs. My dolly, like my T-bar ones. Okay. Next work in progress is also an autumn 2024 pattern. Oh, this is a fun one though. This is a fun one. So, if you've been around for a while, you'll know that I released a pattern 2 years ago called the Lana sweater. It is, to this day, like one of the designs that I'm most proud of. It is a zip-up, drop shoulder, put a picture, zip-up, drop shoulder sweater in half fisherman's rib. And I will say, like, it's had a couple of revisions. It is by far the most, it's like the most complex pattern in terms of skills. Like, they're the most skills in it. I think of all your patterns, you have a double folded collar and you have a facing and the whole thing's in half fisherman's rib and there's short rows and there's decreases, and the more challenging things in a pattern, like the harder it is to explain how it works. So I released the first pattern, the pattern test net went really smoothly, and then I released the pattern and then I definitely got like a bit of feedback on it. So I made some videos, and what I'm currently trying to do is spending this year going back over hopefully all of my patterns and reviewing any of the helpful comments on Ravelry, taking any of the, like if there's like a way you can comment in their projects that can be tagged as helpful. So going through anything that's tagged as helpful, going through all the comments, going through all my emails, and anything that either people have flagged as like, I find this confusing, or like this part. I don't really think there are going to be any huge numerical issues, but mostly a case of improving the quality of the pattern and making the knitting experience better. And so that's what I've done with Lanark. So Lanark was the first one. The next one up is Dorney. It's all lined up. I just need to send it over to tech editing for something, and I forgot what it was. But yeah, but basically I'm working with my tech editor. I'm making the changes. It's getting another round of tech editing. And my hope is just to, where possible, streamline the pattern. Where possible or helpful, add some video tutorials. And I write patterns the way that I like reading patterns, but everyone gets different things. Like some people like a really basic pattern, some people like a very complex pattern, some people like video tutorials, some people like pictures, and I just want to try and cover as many bases as possible without it being convoluted. And so that's what I'm trying to do this year. So the goal is to do between 1 and 2 patterns a month, review them all, and then send updates out. And then make the video. Where they need videos, that might be the part that takes a bit longer. But even just linking like helpful, not even my own tutorials, but like if there's things that are people saying, oh, I don't understand how this part works, are there valuable blog? One of the things I'm thinking about is Lanark is half fisherman's rib, and I like knitting. There are 2 ways to knit half fisherman's rib. There's a really good blog post about half fisherman's rib and like the 2 ways to knit it, and so can I include that blog post in the pattern, in the listing, to make that easier and add more resources? Complete tangent. All that to say, I'm not releasing patterns, I'm just sending out updates, and I'm hoping to at least get through, like, probably not things that come out in the last 6 months, but like at least look up to basically go through all my first patterns and review them with the knowledge I have now, and try to improve the experience of knitting them. I just want to keep improving, you know? But all that to say, the Lana sweater was one of my first patterns, and it is like an oversized, almost like my brother actually took part in the photo shoot. I would say it's quite like a menswear-esque sweater, and I was kind of craving something similar, so I cast on a Henley. So a Henley is what I would consider to be like a sweater with like a 3/4 opening and a placket and buttons. And I decided to make this one saddle shouldered. So my original plan was to make it contiguous, a bit like Rhue. This one here. It was going to be like this, but I decided, well, I started knitting it and I just felt it was way more complicated than it had to be. I really was overcomplicating things with the contiguous, and I realised that the much simpler option would be to make saddles, because then you just make the saddles. And I was thinking about grading of multiple sizes, and for the contiguous it would require, again, trying to think about how can I simplify patterns and make them get to the end goal of having the complete thing in the way that is the most straightforward for the most number of people. So I made a saddle shoulder version. So my yarn's a bit tangled. This is what I have so far. These are the saddles. They're really fun because you knit them first, and then let's see, you pick up at the back and there's short row shaping. Where, I hear you ask? Right there. And then the fronts have got, it's not blocked out so you can't really see, but it kind of comes around, and then it has this placket opening, and I've pretty much just joined them around. I'm really enjoying this. I'm enjoying this a lot. I've not touched it for a few days, actually most of this week, most of last week even, because I'm going away this weekend. I'm taking it with me. I've got 3 balls of yarn all wound up in here ready to go. A few things have, oh look at this, like, you see there, like, oh, the increases. I love Half Fisherman's Rib. It is, Half Fisherman's Rib is like one-sided brioche, so it has the rhythm of brioche on one side, but I feel like it's like an easier version of brioche. The back of Half Fisherman's Rib has this like funny like chunky pattern, and I think I see quite a lot of designers use this side. I always think it looks good, but it looks to me like it's inside out, which it's not. Like, it's just the other side of the pattern. It's like when people use reverse stockinette, I'm like, is that inside out? But I just love it. It creates such a nice fabric, and if you use the right yarn, something that's like, honestly, I don't know the difference between woolen spun and worsted spun. I should, but the one that has more air in it, I think is worsted spun. The airier one is such a nice fabric, such a nice yarn to use for Half Fisherman's Rib, because you get like the squish without it being too dense. So I've only just started my second ball of yarn. I knit Half Fisherman's Rib inside out. So I'm seeing a line on the back, and I don't know if that is a me issue or if that is oh, that's where I blocked it to. That's why I can see a line. I knit mine inside out. So when I'm, obviously I just work it flat back and forward, but I like to flip it inside out, and that is because there's less purling, and as I mentioned, my purl gauge is quite different to my knit gauge, so I find that by flipping it inside out and continuing to knit, you can either yarn over and slip your yarn and then do 1 by 1 ribbing the next row, or you can do 1 by 1 ribbing and then knit into the stitch below. And I find that the knit into the stitch below requires more purling. Yeah, because this way you're always slipping the purls. So I like to knit it, I'm actually just doing a regular ribbing round, I like to knit it inside out, so that's what it looks like. That's the sweater inside out, and I've got this like, this side facing outwards. I did that for my Lana sweater, and I'm doing it again for this one. It's going to have like a nice, I think it's going to have, oh actually it's going to have a lot of options. Again though, like trying to work out how do I add options to a pattern without adding 80 pages to a pattern. It's going to have 2 versions. One will be Half Fisherman's Rib, and one is just going to be stockinette. So there will be a Half Fisherman's Rib version and a stockinette version. The stockinette will still have the saddles, but it won't be a Half Fisherman's Rib. And I think I'll have 2 collar depths. So I think I want to have a high collar with the button band, the placket, so it's like higher, and then I want to have like just a regular like flat neckband. Don't know if I'm describing that very well, but that is the plan. The yarn I'm using for this is Laxtons Sheepsoft. So I actually have, this is the stockinette version, is going to be in navy blue. So it is BFL, you can see there, Blueface Leicester and Masham, Sheepsoft DK, 100% British wool, 225 meters per 100 grams, and a really lovely Super lovely. Spun by Laxtons from fleece to finished yarn in less than 50 miles. So that's what I'm knitting in. This, I ordered 2 colours. I actually don't know where the other bag is. I don't know. So over there, and there's like a chaos pile there. I ordered 2 colours, and I will say I don't like the second colour, but it's my fault. Like, it looks the colour, it looks online. I just for some reason expected it to be a warmer colour, and it is not so warm, but I do really love this one. It is like a very like beigey oatmeal colour. And yeah, I feel like it's hard to show this right now. It's very much, I've done all the hard work, if I'm being perfectly honest. Like, all the shaping, all the short rows are done. The saddles are done. All I need to do now is knit this body, and the sleeves will have a little bit of shaping, but I'm probably going to use exactly the same shape. I mean, it's going to have some short rows over the arms because the saddles are not, the saddles end right here. So my Lanark ends down here. So I don't need to do any shaping for the sleeve cap. I can just knit straight. There's going to have to be a little bit of short row shaping to build this cap up so that I've got a straight panel to work. But shaping in half fisherman's rib is actually really straightforward. So that's nice. And I need to do the ribbing on the collar, which I think what I will do is knit to the end of this ball. I've got loads left. I'm going to knit this ball up, and then hopefully I will do some of the collar work, not colour work, collar, some of the knitting on the collar. And from there on I'll be able to try it on properly, and like I feel like when you put the collar on it brings the whole thing together. I'm really excited about this one. Very much looking forward to it. I think it might be my first pattern of the autumn, but it is also, of the 3 that I'm considering for autumn, this one, my cables, and my next whip, it is the one which is the furthest from completion. So that might get restarted. I actually have an interest, oh actually I'll show you my final one, and then I've got an interesting question which I asked to Sam and I asked to Knit Night, and I'll see what your take is on it. Okay, 1, 2 more whips, 3 more whips. I got up to get my missing project and I grabbed the other yarn that I ordered. This is the colour of it, and I'm just not a fan. I think it's going to look not very good with my skin tone. It is the same yarn, Sheep Soft. It is in the colour Malham, M-A-L-H-A-M. And it's just a little bit, I thought it was going to be like a warm goldeny brown, and it's quite washed out, but if I look, this is pretty accurate on camera, and I still don't know how to describe this colour. It kind of looks like dry grass. So yeah, that's a colour I'm not crazy about. Okay, I have so many projects. It has only been 1 week more than normal, but I have just been casting on, casting off with a wild abandon. Very much just like running with the inspiration. Okay, let me show you my last awesome 2025 project that I have so far, and then we can discuss my thought process. So this is actually fun. Okay, this is fun, but I like the train of thought that leads to this pattern. So I have a pattern called the 6 season sweater. I'll put a picture over here. And then I made, almost immediately after finishing that pattern, I made my stickless 6 season, which is basically a 6 season sweater without the texture on the chest. Did I put it away? Yeah, but it's so far away. I'll put a picture of that in here as well. It's up there. That's it there. And I wear it so much, this green sweater. I absolutely love it. And so I had grand plans to make a few more, and then almost a year ago I think, I don't know anything about American football, I'm really sorry, but I know that the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, but the game that they got, like the AFL, is that what it's called? I don't really know. The game that they won before the Super Bowl, Taylor Swift was there, and she wore this sweater. I'll put a picture, which is actually I think it's Gigi Hadid's brand. It's like a £2,000 sweater. It looks exactly like the Stickless 6 season. It has this like texture over the arms, like in the same way. It has this little garter tab on the back where there's just this little like square inch of garter stitch, which I think is really cool. But it looks exactly like a Stickless 6 season. And so for so long afterwards I was like, I need to make a red one, I need to make a red one. I've had maybe like 4 or 5 people knit one and tag me in it. So it's the 6 season sweater without the texture, saying like I've made this to look exactly like the Taylor Swift one. And I had grand plans to do it. However, what then happened is I had a real drop shoulder phase. So I made 3 stick seasons. I made my brown sample, my stepdad's beige sample for the pictures, and then my stickless version. I then made 4 stick season jackets, which is like a chunkier weight version of the same pattern, same construction. And I have a t-shirt coming out this summer, which I made a sample of last year, which also has a drop shoulder construction and kind of knits up the same way as the stick season. It's like a similar construction to the stick season, different gauge, no texture, but like the same vibe. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I was just over the construction. I just didn't want to cast another one on. And I really wanted the finished sweater, but I did not, like I couldn't really bring myself to knit it because I thought I'm going to have a lot of this happening in the summer, like this t-shirt that's coming out, I'm going to knit at least 3 or 4 samples. I just don't really want to cast on that same construction again. I want something different. So I had, that was like and this is how I find my brain works a lot of the time, is like over here something is happening and then over here something else is happening and then it kind of like kabooms all together. I found that with the Kintra, with the Colourwork. I had this like 1x1 color. I love knitting 1x1 Colourwork, and so I always had in the back of my head like 1x1 Colourwork, 1x1 Colourwork, like what would I do with that? And then I thought Advent, and then like boom, Kintra. So the first thing over here was like the stick season, the lines, the ribbing detail, the red. The other thing that was happening over here was my newfound love for a set-in sleeve sweater. So I have 2 set-in sleeves. I've got the Cara wrap, which came out in November, which is a set-in sleeve wrap. And I have my Kathy, which actually coincidentally is right here, the benefits of filming in my studio space, which is a lace and cable cardigan, which also has a set-in sleeve. So I've been in the world of set-in sleeves for probably 6 months now. And I thought, but they've all been quite fitted and very like feminine. And so I thought, oh, what if I take this like ribbing and the set-in sleeve and we land somewhere in the middle? And I felt it would be very ready to wear. Which is not necessarily the goal of knitworthy knitting, but I thought it'd be interesting to make something that looked more like a ready-to-wear sweater. So this is what I have, if I can untangle myself from it. I blocked the body. I started a sleeve, but I've not blocked that yet. So I just love it so much. This is my favourite thing I've got my nails right now, I think. I just love everything I'm knitting on right now. It's a really nice place to be, where I'm just, apart from this grey Colourwork monstrosity, I really like everything I'm working on. So it has a similar thing to the stick season in that it has this like 1x1 round on the shoulders. And it's, sorry, 2x2. And it's all, like all the detailing is in 2x2 rib, which is what the stick season is in. It's got this kind of like chunkier 2x2 collar, again, kind of similar to the stick season. But these are set in sleeves, so it's a much smaller panel. And with the construction of, not all drop shoulders, but I think just about every top down drop shoulder I've done, you start at the back and then you increase out. And at that point you're at the widest it's going to be, and then you go down and there's a little bit of underarm shaping, and then you go down from there. So you kind of end up with this like trapeze. I'm doing a terrible job of this, but that's how it works. But with this one, the back panel is your entire back. So it goes, this set in sleeves should sit right at like the tip of your shoulder blades, and then your sleeve comes down. Similar to like a ready to wear t-shirt. And so you cast on the back panel and there's some short row shaping, and then you go down, and then in order to make this fit under your arm, you have a much more dramatic increase. So there's much more of a shaped armhole, more so than a drop shoulder sweater. And so to do all that shaping, I had to do all these underarm increases, and I thought, well, why don't we just do them in ribbing too? I just love it so much. And you ended up, it resulted in this kind of like square almost in the front. So I just am obsessed with this at the moment. Chunky ribbing on the bottom, DK weight gauge. I think this is going to have a DK and a 4-ply version, because I think the 4-ply knitters will love this. I think it will look really good in 4-ply. And yeah, so last night I knit my sleeve cap, because you need to kind of knit this like round bit with short row shaping before you can start knitting in the round. So if you think about that, actually that's a good way of looking at it. From the bottom upwards to about here, this is all knit in the round, and everything from here to here is done with short row shaping so that it curves around the top of your arm. So fun. So I'm using Drops Alpaca. as I said, I love alpaca and mohair. It's a really nice combination. My stickless stick season is in alpaca and mohair, and I thought I'd use drops alpaca again. And I'm using Knitting for Olive mohair in the colour Blood Orange because I accidentally ordered 9 balls when I meant to order like 3. So I have like a whole extra sweaters quantity of this, and I was like, well, I'm not going to buy more mohair when I already have mohair in the right colour. So it's giving me like almost a very bright like letterbox red, almost orangey. I think the biggest struggle is gonna be not wearing this before. I'm gonna wear this non-stop, I can already tell. So I like it. It's like it's not a basic sweater, but it is something which I think you could wear just about every single day. Like, I can see myself wearing this with my black jeans and wearing it really casually. I can see it going over dresses. I think like the underarm, oh look at all that ribbing. Like that is so fun, but it's still like a relatively plain sweater. So I'm obsessed with this. Obsessed. Keep cycling through names. I keep a list of possible names for future patterns, and sometimes I look and I'm like, oh yeah, that one fits really well for this, but this one doesn't have a name yet. But here's my question. There's the red sweater, there's the cable knit sweater, and there's the Henley, the half fisherman's rib. And there's the months September, October and November for pattern releases. Which pattern would you release in which month? My logic is October is cables month. So the cables come out in October because people want to knit cables then. And I know people will say, but like, oh, but I want to wear cables in October. I'll start knitting them in like July. And I praise you for your forethought, but I think most people knit what they're in the mood for at the time. I certainly do. So I think October is cables month. I think then that this one is a bit more delicate and that this is going to be the November pattern and that the Henley is in September. But this pattern's almost done. So from a release perspective, it would be better to release this in September because the pattern's already written and I can go to tech anything like in 2 days and then it's ready to go for a 14-week test knit. Anyway, I'd be curious, which would you rather, if you see all these and you're like, I would knit all of them, which month would you want to knit them in? Also, this is kind of more delicate, so like it kind of gives Christmassy vibes. I think this one's I think the red is pretty seasonless, if I'm honest, especially if it comes out in 4-ply as well. But that is my question for you. Which pattern would you release in which month? Let me know. Okay, I have 2 more whips. I'm sorry. This is a very long episode and I've got a little bit of acquisitions to show. Okay. Other they're both striped. Oh, hiccup. They're both stripy. I'll show this one first. So I mentioned I have a t-shirt coming out. This is my next test call actually. It's already written. The pattern is all ready to go. I think the test call is still like a month away. Anyway, I have a pattern which is very well known called the Tolsta tee. It is by far my most popular pattern. It is sold in some cases 10 times what my other pattern is sold. Yeah, it's sold like 10 times as many as some of my other patterns. Oh no, I've just realised that my barber cord has come undone. Okay. I love that stitch gauge. I think the 17 stitch gauge of the Tolsta is exactly what I want to wear in the summer, and I know I don't live in a very, very summery place, but I will say there are a lot of projects, there are people who have knit them multiple times. I'm sticking with that gauge for this summer garment. But this version is going to be drop shouldered and it's going to be the same construction as my stick season and like a few other patterns I have, which is like a baby drop shoulder, which is where the drop shoulder is here and then you do a little bit of shoulder shaping and then it goes down. And it means that you don't have the full oversized drop shoulder, but it has the look without having that fit. It fits more close to the body because you've got a little bit of shoulder shaping. That is the plan. Now the Tolsta is a raglan and it's really easy to customise as much as you want. So it's a little bit harder with the drop shoulder to do that customisation because you have to make sure it matches front and back. So I wanted to make sure the pattern included at least a few options. And one of that's going to be striping. So I cast on my version and I think I showed this last time. It's very Beetlejuice. I've not made very much more progress. This is going to be called the Lusk tee, L-U-S-K. And yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'll put put a picture of my t-shirt version from last year here. Doesn't use very much yarn. Knits up, like, the summer is just so short in the UK that I don't really have the appetite to knit. I want to knit summer things for like a month and a half and then I'm over it and ready for sweaters again. So having a pattern that I think, oh, I really want a red t-shirt and I can knit one in like 10 days I mean, I could knit it in like 3 days really, but you know, a reasonable timeline I think is really nice, and I'm excited for it. So it's going to have stripes, it's going to have a few interesting details you can play with, and it's going to be the same gauge as the Tolsta. It's also going to have a 4-ply version, and it's going to have bust shaping options, so similar in all those realms to the Tolsta. Another like basic tee, but just with a slightly different construction, like, well, a very different construction to Tolsta, and I'm excited. I've not made any more progress on this because everything else has gotten me way more excited, and I should finish that by the time I do the next test call, which is fine. I should check when the test call's going out and then make sure I'm on track to finish this. I operate a spreadsheet, and every week I have like I have everything planned out until the end of 2025. So like if I want to release something, I don't know, the 3rd week of October, and I want to do 14 weeks of test knitting, and it needs 2 weeks of tech edit, when do I need to have my sample finished by? And then if my sample's finished by then, when should I do the yoke, when should I do the body, when should I do sleeve 1, sleeve 2, collar, etc. Very little chill over here. And so I know when I need to finish this by, and it's not this week, so that's fine. But that is why I'm kind of chill about it, because I know that there will be a week where it says finish the yoke this week, and I'll be like, okay cool, I'll finish that yoke this week. So that's why so far it's not anywhere to be seen. Okay, my final finished object is really, really fun. After whizzing through my Tolsta tank, that was happening. What was also happening is that I have a class with the Woolly Good Gathering. So the Woolly Good Gathering is a yarn festival in April in Edinburgh. It'll be its 2nd year running. I loved the first year. I just participated. I went along as a regular attendee. And they had an open call for classes, and so I submitted I think 2 outlines, maybe 3 outlines for classes, with the expectation that one of the 3 might get selected. And they selected my Intarsia class. So I'm going to be teaching a class called Painting with Intarsia, and it's going to be like an Intarsia basics, and then making your own Intarsia chart, and then plugging your charts into a shawl scarf type thing. So I've been doing a lot of research on Intarsia. I've got my Leith cardigan, which is a very like straightforward Intarsia pattern, but I've been looking up like tips and tricks and things that like certain people might struggle with, other people might not struggle with, things like that, like deep in the Intarsia research. And I've been thinking about Intarsia so much that I wanted to cast on some Intarsia. And then because my Tolsta tank was so fun to knit and I really enjoyed it, I decided to make an Intarsia Tolsta tank. That's what I have so far. It looks a bit like a Massenburg, and I kind of love it, which is a cake, a type of cake. This better be done in time for Valentine's Day, because it's very like on trend for Valentine's Day, although Valentine's Day is the day that Kintra is launching, so I'll have to wear my Kintra on the Kintra day, but I'll wear this in the run up to it. It's a slightly chunkier gauge. I think it's 16 stitches instead of 17, so I've gone down a size, and I'm knitting it flat, so I am going to knit the back and the front separately. I think this is going to be absolutely fine. I cast on an extra stitch, which I will lose to the seaming at either side. So I took the way that the Tolsta tanks work is that you cast on the body, work up and split the front and back. So I took the full cast on body number, split that in 2, and I'm working each of those at a panel. And then what I will do is I will cast, instead of binding off under the arms, I will bind off at the start of a row, work to the end of the row, turn around, bind off at the start of that row, and then do my shaping as I would in pattern. Easy peasy. And then the rest of the pattern is already split by front and back, so all the shaping and stuff is already split front and back. And then what I will have to do is seam down the sides. I don't do a whole lot of seaming. I've done very little seaming, so I'm a bit worried it's going to be really messy, but it's a good new skill to learn. It's not very much, just 2 seams, and it's easier to do that than to knit Intarsia in the round. So I'm using Filcolana Peruvian Highland wool and matching mohairs. This is Filcolana Tilia. This is Sandnes Garden Tin Silk Mohair. I had this already in stash. I think I've got 2 balls of the pink and 3 balls of the red. I think it's going to be enough. And I cast on yesterday, 2 days ago, and I think yesterday. And I'm here, and it's really nice. The fabric is lovely. It's really fun and bright. And I'm kind of doing one of my Leith cardigan, which is like half of the panel and one half of the other. So you get this like fun checkerboard around the back. It's fun in Intarsia, but it's not too complicated. Intarsia becomes complex because you have lots of bobbins of different colours. In this case I only have 2 colours, so if I can sit on the sofa with a ball here and a ball here on my knitting, and then just like flip it around as I go, it makes for a much more simple process. And I'm just trying to weave in the ends as I go for the most part on that seam. So there's a lot of ends to weave in there, but it's super neat on the right side, and especially this, it's a vest, so like you're never going to see the inside unless I physically turn it inside out, which why would I ever do? So yeah, it's really fun. It's going to be my fun little Valentine's intarsia tee. And I thought in April in Scotland, I never know what the weather's going to be like, but I probably can guarantee that I can chuck this on over a t-shirt and I'm probably going to be okay wearing it. And I felt like if I'm teaching an intarsia class, I should wear intarsia. My class is sold out, so I would tell you to, if you're coming, to have a look at it, but the class sold out really, really quickly. So I'm a bit nervous about that, but I'm also really excited. And it would be cool. I'd like to get myself, like I know that there are some big designers who have like a handful of classes that they teach and they like travel with them and stuff. Now I'm a bit of a homebody. I don't have a huge desire to travel a lot right now. But it would be nice to know that I have some workshops under my belt that if I wanted to take them somewhere, I would have something to offer other than just, hi, I'm Rebecca, talk to me. But I could go like, here's the thing I can teach you. So that'd be really cool. That is all my works in progress. I will do a very quick whiz through some yarn acquisitions. So the main thing is I got some more Laxtons Sheep Soft, and this is to make my stockinette Henley. I have 2 samples planned. So I have 3 in total. I would really like to do a stripy one. So I thought what I would do is this, the half fisherman's rib one with a high neck, a navy blue stockinette with a high neck, and then a white with blue stripes with like a low neck. And I say low, I just mean like a regular round neck as opposed to like a higher. Not sure if I'm explaining that very well. Also, definitely did not need to order these already, but ordered the first one and I thought, oh, I'm just going to order it while I'm here and I've got the yarn. So that's fun. The blue is called Kettlewell. It's a lovely like navy blue, and this is called Airedale, A-I-R-E. And then the other thing that's interesting to share is my, I feel like I'm talking in a way like I'm talking to someone else who has all the same knowledge I have, and I feel like there's a good chance that I've been a very scruffy, like jumping all over the place today because I keep being like, oh and this, oh and this, oh and this. So apologies if you're not like deeply invested in the lore of my brain. I feel like I didn't do enough world building and I just jumped straight in, so maybe it's confusing. I ordered some more Pura Lana. For the t-shirt that I'm doing, I thought it'd be fun to make a sweater version, and I know that this plus Mohair will get me the right gauge because it got me the gauge on my Tolsta tank. So these are my colours. So I'm in no rush to cast this on, but I love the yarn so much that I ordered 2 more colours. This is the colour 164, which I believe maybe it was called like, I can't remember, russet? I want to call it russet? I'm not actually sure. I think that's everything. Life updates. Life has been, like January has been a real like hibernating month, and I have really, really enjoyed it. I've done a lot of knitting because we've had quiet weekends, we've been like watching movies, reading books, having quiet evenings, so like I've had a lot of time to knit, which I've really, really enjoyed. Things are starting to ramp up again. So this weekend I'm going to a conference. I'm chairing a conference. When I left university, when I was in university, and then when I left university I was part of a youth leadership organisation that was all about like global exchanges and global leadership, and they invited me back to chair a conference. So I'm self-employed now and I work my own schedule, so I figured if there was ever a time to do it, now's a good time to say yes. It's been a lot of preparation, and it's been a long time since I did any public speaking. I used to do a lot of public speaking, so I'm a little bit nervous about going back, but I think it'll be fun. I'll leave for that tomorrow. Today's Wednesday. I'll leave for that on Thursday. I'll be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, home on Sunday evening. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be like a bunch of 17 and 18 year olds, and I got to try and motivate them. I feel very old, but I'm also looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to some skills. It's been also a nice experience because part of talking to them is talking about my experiences, and it's meant that I've had to kind of stop and reflect a little bit, which has been odd but fun. So that's coming up this weekend. 2 weekends away I'm going to Unravel in Farnham, so if you are going to Unravel, let me know. I'm going solo for the most part. I think I know some people that are going, but I'm not going with a group. I am very fortunate in that a good friend of mine is having a baby, and the baby shower was torn between 2 weekends, and they live in Farnham, so my partner Sam grew up in Farnham. The last time I was at the Maltings, which is where the festival is, was for one of our friends' weddings. And yeah, the last time I was there was Kaylee dancing, so weird thought. A good friend, same friendship group, a good friend of ours is pregnant, baby is coming in March, and there were 2 weekends, and she said, like, here are the 2 weekends for the baby shower, like, does anyone have any preference, or is there a weekend they can't do? And I said, well, if it's this weekend, then I could also go to Unravel. And lucky for me, it's that weekend, so I'm going to Unravel. And yeah, other than that, I've been driving again. I've not been driving for 8 years since I passed my test, so I've been driving again, which has been scary but fun. And I started, well, next week I start therapy, which is going to be fun, a bit scary. So lots of fun things, and lots of knitting, and lots of reading. But I'm in a good place. I'm enjoying life, I'm enjoying challenging myself, and I'm enjoying knitting. My battery's going to run out, so I'm going to wrap things up. I will be back in 2 weeks' time with the Kintra pattern and a discount code and updates on everything I've been knitting on. And until then, happy knitting. Thank you for hanging out with me.